All right, here we are. Hey, we've got Jody Strittmatter. Did I say that right? Yep. Jody Strittmatter. Whoops. He's stepping to the line today, as we affectionately call this show. And he's live with us here in the Florida Wrestling Room. So, how are you, Jody? Thanks for coming in. Really appreciate you. How are things going? How's family? How are you being affected right now?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. Number one, things are going good. I mean, it's not the normal, that's for sure. But we're getting along pretty good. I got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, so they got a lot of energy every day. But thankfully, I got a little wrestling room in my house, so we burn off a lot of energy down here every day.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, I was talking to Colin Palmer, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm getting over this. I put the mat in the garage. I'm already rolling around with my little daughter. She's like 4, but I've already hitting her and stuff. He's getting
Yeah.
he's getting all into it." So again, we're here with co-founder and coach of Young Guns. He is located at the Young Guns in Pennsylvania. If you don't know, he is one of the coaches on the staff at UPJ Johnstown. He was a high school state champ, a two-time NCAA champ, a four-time All-American, two-time Big Ten champ. He was on two national championship teams, which is pretty dope. One at UPJ and one at Iowa. And he's been inducted into 4 different Hall of Fames. So pretty good wrestling heritage there, Jody. So talk a little bit about your career, your background. What got you to the point where you said, okay, it's time to open a club?
Yeah, I was super lucky to be around, surrounded. My parents were super, super supportive. Neither one of them had a wrestling background, but they got us into wrestling at a young age. And, I didn't, maybe start with a bang. I didn't make it to the state tournament until my 8th grade year. And then started really, really falling in love with it and really falling in love with working hard. My dad was a dairy farmer. So that work ethic background was super, super strong in our family. And, just kind of fell in love with the process of wanting to become great and starting to get role models and people that I wanted to emulate my life after. And my brother was a huge, huge influence on me. He was 2 years older. So he was just a couple years ahead of me in that process. Like I said, I was surrounded with just incredible role models, people that I wanted to be like. And we didn't have the social media that we do now, so it's much different back then. Um, you know, Looking through old VHS tapes and kind of you say, man, he wrestles really hard. I want to wrestle like him someday. So doing that is much
Oh,
different than
VHS
today.
tape. I don't, any of the kids out there, that's how we used to have to watch video. We
That's
couldn't
right. Yeah.
download it on our phone.
Yeah, you would see it in a magazine. You'd see what college teams were versing each other, and you'd order it, and then a month later it would come in the mail. Now, man, they can watch them live. All across the country. You can watch 5 different dual meets in one night on a Friday night during season.
Right on YouTube.
Yeah, that's right. So it's much different, but yeah. So like I said, I was just surrounded by amazing people that cared for me a lot. And also great, with wrestling technique and teaching you the sport of wrestling. So all the way up through, high school and college. And I went to Pitt Johnstown first for 3 years. Then I transferred to Iowa. So again, just super lucky to be around the people that I was in my life.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you obviously said, I want to give back and I want the kids to have them, mentors and people that I looked up to, and you started Young Guns. And it's obviously, I'm sure you didn't start with all the accolades you have now. It probably started with a few kids, and it's grown to now where it's a national powerhouse. So um, I was going to ask, talk about Young Guns, talk about your philosophy behind Young Guns.
I think it's pretty simple. It's much different than being a high school coach or a coach that you see them every day. Because kids have matches during the week, they have different things going on, so you don't see the same kids like every single day at a practice. You may see the kid 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and you're maybe communicating different ways. And it might be me one day, and it might be my brother another day that's coaching them. So it's a little bit different. But I think the bottom line is whoever's at practice tonight, do everything you can to help them get better. Right? And I think it's really, really simple. And different skills go, maybe one day we're on our feet, one day we're on the mat, but just how can you help them get better today? And then also not just technically, but mentally and getting in the right mind frame is extremely, extremely important because really, so like, again, like I said, if you're only seeing them 1 or 2 times a week, and man, there's a lot of other hours in the week that, they're either doing things right or wrong. So if you get them in the right mind frame, that they're thinking the right way of being a champion 24 hours a day, then man, it gets really, really special. And that's whenever you get those kids that are winning state titles and national titles and world titles, whenever they go all in and believe in being the right person and right competitor.
That's awesome. Yeah. So obviously, if we weren't stuck in our house, I'd ask you kind of coaching live questions, but we're not. So what are you doing virtually right now? What is Young Guns virtual wrestling up to keep your teams and your kids ready for the off season when God willing have one?
It's been really special. So we had our state tournament. We were lucky. We had our high school state tournament the first week of March, and that's when everything started getting shut down. We were able to have our junior high state tournament, which was the week before that. And then our kids state tournament got canceled. So that's whenever things started getting canceled and we were off for 2 weeks. And I keep telling the story. My brother is he's a principal, right? And then my other brother's a teacher. So they were going through the same thing, during school. What are we going to do? We got to keep helping these kids. So, they're doing everything online that way. And so my brothers came to me and they were like, hey, I think there's a great opportunity for kids to still get better during this time. I don't know when we're going to go back to practice. So we put some like academic things together with wrestling and use a Google Classroom platform, right? And we do a ton of Zoom live meetings. And we have some guest clinicians every Friday. We have a guest clinician come in. So we had Spencer Lee the first week. We had Dane Gable. We had Ben Askren. And then, we have a guest clinician that comes in.
Are you going to have any good wrestlers on?
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying to expose them. Just, again, I know it's tough for the kids too. It really is. So just trying to expose them to different things, So I'll run a practice 1 day a week. John will run a practice 1 day a week. And then we'll just, we'll do simple things like we'll just throw one technique at them. So this afternoon I'll do, it's called a technique of the week. So I'll just do one technique. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we get up at 6 a.m. And so we do it. It's called Rise and Grind. And it's just like a 35-minute conditioning workout and strength and conditioning. So it's been pretty cool. Jason Nolf he texted me the other day and he was like, Coach, those workouts, they look incredible. Can I do them with you?
Oh,
absolutely.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it's pretty cool. The kids are looking up the screen and they're seeing Jason Nolf working out, and he was just drenched in sweat.
That's a guy that so they bring wrestlers in during the off season at the club down here that my son is in. He's at CFWA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So they do rumbles, and whatever. And every once in a while they'll be like, oh, we've got Ramos, or we've got Nato, or we got Palmer, or we got Kraus, or whatever, right? And they'll get a few hundred kids, right? So then they announced Nolf, and it was the largest rumble they've ever had in the history.
Oh, that's awesome.
They had like, I forget. I think it was close to 300. I could be exaggerating a little bit, but you couldn't park. You had to go all the way down the street.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, he's a great kid. Actually, the story behind that, his wife plays in the professional soccer. So she had a game down there. So Jason texted me and he said, hey, I know you go down there and you do some camps down there. Do you have any connections? I'm going to be down there. I'd love to do something on the mat, So I know a couple guys we come down to Disney, probably once or twice a year. We try it with the little kids, and we come down to Florida. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I called those guys up and they hooked it up and they got Jason down there and he said it was awesome.
I'm sure Mike was loving that.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, yeah. He and his wife and Coach Scott and they're just so good with the kids. So I love what they've done for my son. I went to hug him at districts, but then I realized it's Palazzo. So I was like, it just touched his like it's just
That's great.
Yeah. My son went from 0-30 and then an off season with him and came in third at districts. So I was like, wow, we made so much progress. I would just so thankful and grateful for the coaches that have been in his life. So for Coach Wheeler,
Absolutely.
Coach Rose, and then them to do that. So it was awesome. So I know you spoke about your brothers. Are they as decorated as you in wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, they were both extremely succcessful.
Nice.
My older brother was an NCAA champion at Pitt Johnstown also. He was on that national championship team that you had talked about earlier.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, they're extremely hard workers. Like I said, we were blessed. My dad never wrestled a day in his life, but we were super blessed with just that every day. The cow's got to be milked every day. Didn't matter your birthday. Didn't matter if it's Christmas. You're going to get up and you're going to go to work. So we were blessed with that and didn't even know it at the time. So
That's cool. So
all
what does
surrounded by good people.
so at the Young Guns, as far as so you have practice weeks. So what does a normal practice week look like? And then what does a practice week look like when it's competition week? Like let's say you have a tournament on that weekend or something. What what do the practice weeks look like? How do they differ?
Yeah. So really, I would say we're like in season. When the kids are in season, we understand that they're going to their high school practice first or their junior high practice first, and then they're coming. So it's a little bit different. It's more drilling and technique and play wrestling with little live. Maybe during the beginning of the year, we'll do a little bit more live in situations. But we do that a lot less, once the state tournaments and stuff like that are coming up. Now, outside of whenever they don't have another high school practice to go to back to back, the practices are different. They're a little bit more grueling, and we try to make them a little bit tougher. But we understand, like I said, it's pretty crazy, really, to think about that a kid will go to, he'll get up before school, he'll work out, and he'll go to school. Right? Then he goes to his high school practice, and the goal is to be the hardest working kid at your high school practice. He'll go home, do a little bit of homework, study, eat, and come back to a club practice. So, we're not trying to kill them. We're trying to keep helping them get better. That's what the bottom line is. Like I said before, help them. And, if you just keep running them down, it's not going to help. So it's much different during the season. So like I said, if I was a high school coach, then during the competition week, it would be different. But for us, like you have a junior high kid, maybe he has his hardest match of the year coming up, where you have a high school team that they're off, but then another high school team is going to the Beast of the East or the Ironman that week. So it's different. You're getting kids from all over and different, like out of season's a little bit, we can plan a little bit more structurally that way.
Right.
But kind of everyone's looking for something different when they come. And that's, like I said, so it's hard. At the same time, it's easy because it's just trying to help them get better that night. And if they have questions, help them. If not, they'll kind of stay on our plan and trying to do what we're doing that night.
That's awesome. So one thing I wanted to ask, and I think maybe these two questions go hand in hand. So you've been the coach and you've been the athlete, right? So talk a little bit about how that adjustment was, right? Because not everybody you coach can be Jody Strittmatter and do it like Jody Strittmatter did it. So I'm sure you have to kind of learn how to coach. And then you've been a high school coach and a college coach, right? So talk about the difference of the kid or the mentality or the expectations, and then kind of your feelings like when you see that young high school kid finally get to a level where you're like, wow, we did that, to
Right.
where a college kid is now. He's at a level to where we just kind of need to groom him.
Right. Well, number one, I think being an athlete first, you really, really respect the work that the kids are putting in. And not that someone who didn't can't, but man, it's tough whenever you just say, hey, get out and do them. You know how tough it is, or just, hey, make weight. Well, it's really, really tough. It takes an unbelievable amount of discipline and sacrifice to do that. So I think that's number one. Being an athlete, I have, the utmost respect for these kids who want to wrestle. It's an extremely, extremely hard sport. So I have a ton of respect for them, being a coach now going through it. Is it different? Absolutely. It's much different. I was a kid who was brought up, again, on a farm, and I was not exposed to drugs, alcohol, anything like that. And it seems like nowadays it's out there a lot for kids. So just doing everything I can now as a coach to help them stay on the right path, to reaching their goals is extremely, extremely important. So as an athlete, you know what you have to do and you get it done. As a coach, sometimes you're, a kid wants to do something, but then he starts going off on a different path, and you got to grab him and helping him get back on that. But it ultimately has to come from them and them want to do it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Again, I get to coach anywhere from, my son's 4, and we have a novice program now at Young Guns. So 4-year-olds all the way up through college kids. It's different, but at the same time, it's really not. It's how can I help the 4-year-old get better today? How can I help that senior in college, finally get to where he wants to be, or help him get better today. So whenever I think about it that way, it becomes really, really simple of just, helping a kid.
You don't have any cows out back, make them go milk them?
No, we sold the cows. We sold the cows about 5 years ago. So
yeah,
no
say, hey,
anymore. We still, my dad and his uncle.
This is what you're going to do in life. Go milk the cows.
That's right. Get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day.
How many sprints do you need?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, talk a little bit about it. So you started in Division II, right, at UPJ, and then you ended up at Iowa. So, 2 very different programs, right? And Iowa is just incredibly well known in wrestling. Some good stories from Iowa, some good wrestling stories. Maybe you have some of the what matches do you remember the most? How awesome was it to be in that kind of environment, which eat, breathe, and sleep wrestling, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was really special. So I won high school states my senior year, and my brother was at UPJ, right? And I knew Coach Bacor really, really well. So it was just an easy fit for me. I felt really, really comfortable there. And it was something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. I had an amazing 3 years there. Got to rest with my brother. Made a lot of really, really close friends. A lot of those guys were in my wedding. Guys that I talked to, throughout the week, all the time still. So it was just a great experience. And we won a Division II national title that year. So it was, again, really, really cool. Coach Bacor is someone who I look up to still to this day. Whenever I was young, I was going to his camps and I loved him. And then I got to wrestle for him, and now I get to coach with him. He just broke the all-time wins record for any college coach ever.
Wow.
So he broke that, any division. So he just broke that this past season. And again, he's just an amazing coach and person. He's obviously, they win all the time, but it's so much more to that. It's about the relationships, and he's one of the coaches that taught me so much about that. Developing relationships is the most important thing. So again, it was a really, really lucky time that I had to wrestle with my brother and wrestle under Coach Bacor. And then, so I won Division II Nationals my freshman and sophomore year. And I talked to Coach Bacor during the year, and he said, yes, I'll help you go wherever you want. And whenever I was a young kid, I wanted to always go to Iowa. I was growing up, and I was they were winning national title after national title at that time. And I got a hold of a tape. It was called Dan Gable Competitor Supreme. And it just changed kind of who I wanted to be as a wrestler, really. Right? So I got that as a young kid, and so I always wanted to wrestle for Iowa. And after I won a Division II title as my sophomore year, me and Coach Bacor talked, and that's whenever I transferred to Iowa for my junior and senior year. So again, a really, really great experience. I didn't know a single person at the time. Me and my older brother, we got in my truck and we drove out to Iowa City. Unloaded my stuff, dropped me off, and I spent the whole summer out there before the year. Just
talk about
with the program and
you're a
everything.
Division II NCAA champ, and now you're walking onto Iowa's mats.
Yeah.
And are they looking at you like, wow, that's a Division II champ? Or are they like, yeah, welcome to a new level? Or did they bring?
I don't think so.
Arms and everybody was like, welcome, come on, let's do it. Because I've heard good things. We had Coach Duck on, and he spoke about why his son chose Iowa, and he said they were just amazing over there. When he went on the interview, they never talked about wrestling. It was just about life and his goals. So yeah. I've heard really good things, and they got a really good wrestler with that kid, Brett Lee Reyna. He's not bad. So I'm sure you had that same feeling when you showed up.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was I was having success, even though it wasn't maybe in Division I yet. I had won the Midlands tournament whenever I was wrestling for UPJ, and I was wrestling in freestyle tournaments, like university nationals and stuff like that, and placing really high. So, and then I came in right during the summer, like spring, summer. So I got a whole, spring and summer with them training. So it's really, it wasn't a whole lot different, really.
And that's why I asked, because I hear a lot that, there's a lot of kids in Division II that could compete on the Division I level, but
Right,
the
absolutely.
opportunity and the education and maybe the scholarships or the funding just gave them a better opportunity. Or
Right,
like
yeah, absolutely.
you were around a coach your whole life. Your brother was there, got a chance to be with him. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. So, yeah, I always wonder, like I know in this community that I've been a part of for the last few years, I've realized how much camaraderie there is and how much family feeling it is. So you don't see that as much as like when you're a basketball kid walking into a new school and they're like
Right.
trying to test you and see if you really got what it takes. It seems like in the wrestling rooms they kind of welcome you, and not that they're not tough when you wrestle, but
Right, yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, absolutely.
family atmosphere, this sport. So you're at Iowa, and you guys win the national championship that year, right? Was it that year or your junior year? Your senior year, right?
No,
So
my
that,
junior year. Junior year, we won the national title. Yeah.
and now did you win a championship at Iowa as well? An individual?
Yeah. So my sophomore year at UPJ, we won, and then I transferred. Then my junior year at Iowa, we won one.
Yes,
My
and
senior year,
as
we
far
got
as
second, actually.
so that's awesome, man. How cool was that? Two schools? That's pretty fun. They must think you're like a lucky charm. All the schools were like, "Hey, send them here." So what's the one match in your career that kind of sticks in your mind where you say, "Man, either gosh, I wish I could do that one again," or um, "Man, that's the one that really told me, or I felt like, man, I belong here. I belong at this level." Like NATO spoke about a match his freshman year that he had with a two-time champ, and he ended up beating him. And he said that right there, that kind of gave me the confidence to say, okay, I can compete at this level.
Yeah. I would say maybe not a match, but a tournament for me that really helped me think that way. Probably my freshman year at Midlands. Again, I was a Division II kid, and there was a lot of really, really good kids at the Midlands tournament. And I lost, I think, in the quarterfinals, maybe, to the eventual champ. And he was an NCAA Division I national finalist. And it was a good match. And then I came back and all the way, and I got third, and I beat some really good kids on the way. So I think that was maybe a tournament where it was back to back matches. Having that breakout tournament that really, really helped me. It's probably the one that I would always love to have back. And he was an unbelievable competitor with Stephen Ovis in the NCAA finals. It was an amazing atmosphere just because the NCAA tournament was in Carver Hawkeye Arena that year. So it's just it was a great match. He's obviously an amazing competitor. He's a three-time NCAA champ. He's a Olympic silver medalist. So just have a ton of respect for him.
Not a bad career. And it's funny when you talk to these athletes, like I had Scotty Sentis on, right? And he was like 215-3 or something in high school. And he's like, I only remember those three. Yeah. So
those ones stick with you a lot longer.
I was like, man, not a bad record there. So I know Ricky likes to do kind of 10-question things. So I'll try and get through them on my memory. But he likes to ask, headgear or no headgear?
Yeah, I'm old. No headgear now.
But
I want my kids wearing them.
Yes. Freestyle or folk style?
Oh, geez, that's a good one. I'm going freestyle.
Freestyle. Let's see. He says, I'm trying to remember. Well, you would say Iowa, because if I said Iowa or Penn State, you're going to say Iowa.
Yeah, you can't put me in there.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing too. And the cool thing is, like, I had an amazing experience at Iowa, but the awesome thing is that, now that I've had kids come through Young Guns and they're at Penn State and I cheer for them, and they're at Arizona State and I cheer for them. I love them. So I become fans of the program of where the kids that I know best go. So it's pretty cool that way.
That is cool. Okay. Ice cream cake or birthday cake?
Yeah, definitely ice cream cake for sure.
Singlet or two-piece?
Singlet.
Let's see. Coke or Pepsi?
I don't drink pop. Haven't for a lot of years.
That's good. Salt water or fresh water?
Sorry, what was that? Go again.
Salt water or fresh water?
Salt water. Yeah.
Rap or country?
Country for sure. Grew up on a farm.
Car or pickup truck?
I'm going with the pickup truck.
Popeyes or Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A.
That's a tough one, right?
That is, yeah.
And then ocean or swimming pool?
Yeah, that's tough again. Give me an ocean.
Singlet or two-piece?
Yeah, I'm going back with singlet. I'm old school again.
That's awesome. Well, man, hey, this has been fantastic. Is there anything else that you would like to say about Young Guns and your program? Is there any shout outs you want to give UPJ? Please feel free.
No, yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. I know our family, we love coming down. Like I said, we've done clinics every time we come down there, and getting to build relationships all around the country has been really, really special. So, thank you so much for having me on, and look forward to coming back sometime.
Yeah, for sure, anytime. And I know that you're in contact with a lot of the wrestling community out there. If I share my link with you, would you mind sharing it with wrestler
Absolutely.
coaches? I think, I literally sit here all day and I message people out of nowhere, but if I get one back, I'm like, yeah, I got one, right?
That's great.
So,
Yeah.
so I think coming from you, I may get more action. So
Yeah,
I
that's
do
awesome.
appreciate you, man. And yeah, come on anytime. You'll have my link. So just sign on up if you want to talk about something. And
Yeah.
let's do it.
You need to send some of that Florida weather up. I heard we might get some snow today again.
Oh, yes, it is. It is pretty. Let's see. I don't know if you can see here, but we've
You're
got,
gonna rub it in now, aren't you?
I think we got some sun.
Yeah, that's the sun out there.
Yeah, that's the sun out. Let's see. I don't know if you can see out the window there. Yeah, some sun.
Oh yeah.
And look, here in Florida, our pools are not covered.
Yeah, there you go. Poles, palm trees. I can handle that.
Yeah. So we'll see Young Guns Florida soon.
That's right. Absolutely. We got to make it happen.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I do appreciate you.
Hey,
And
thank you. Have a great day.